Well, that's not a good
Yeah,
therapist.
yeah.
Because a good therapist doesn't give advice. The therapist makes it about the client and about you. And the whole ideal is they're looking at how you can gain insight from your own life. It's not about this bag of tools that they're going to tell you what to do because they're not living your life.
Hello, and welcome to the Ask Martita Robbins podcast, where we explore the power of emotional freedom techniques, or EFT tapping, to transform your life, providing you with tools you need to tackle life's challenges head on. I'm your host, Martita Claiborne Robbins, here to guide you on your journey to greater mental wellness and emotional bounce back ability. In each episode, we'll explore ways to reduce chronic stress, anxiety, and burnout, giving you a practical guide for stress management, emotional healing, and a proven method to thrive in the midst of life's challenges. So tune in and let's get ready to tap into your best self. All right, so welcome back to another episode of Ask Martita Robbins podcast, Tapping with Tita. And today it is my pleasure to have joining me as my guest a licensed clinical social worker and certified clinical trauma professional, Sheena Lyle. And you can find Sheena on social media at The Skills Coach. She's on Instagram. And I'm going to have the link in the show notes or the description. So, Sheena, welcome to the podcast. So excited that we get to have this conversation today.
I'm so glad to be here, and I know it's a much needed conversation.
Yes, indeed. So, before we jump right in, can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Sure. So I am a licensed clinical social worker. I've been doing that for 25 plus years. I currently have a couple entrepreneur efforts, and I'm always working with clients. I also develop students. I do some assistant professor work as a social worker. And I just love just being able to share good insights with people's skills, which is the skills coach, on how you can do better with your life, not just therapy, but just putting practical things in place for you.
I love that because those are the things that we need. Those are the skills that are going to help us not just survive, but to thrive, right? Oh my
That's right.
goodness. So you and I both, we're working with busy professionals. We are busy professionals. And usually I talk to a lot of teachers because I'm a teacher myself. Outside of being an emotional freedom technique tapping practitioner, I'm an educator and I have an educator's heart. And I know that a lot of times, especially based on the conversations I've been having with people, it could be easy to overlook those signs of chronic stress, especially if we think, oh, well, this is just how things are, or everybody feels this way. So it could be easy to just shrug it off or not pay too much attention to it. So, do you mind explaining for us some of those common signs of chronic stress that busy folks might overlook?
Yeah, so I think a lot of things that come from chronic stress are going to be felt in the body because, as you know, stress may be in the mind, but we are going to feel it in our body. Some of the things I've noticed is that people start to have digestive issues or gastrointestinal issues where, maybe their food is not going down well. It is their stomach is hurting. Also, headaches. Sometimes people have headaches and they can't explain them. And I'm not talking about people that have a history of migraines because that's typically a condition that happens whether you have stress or not. But this is just like you're just stressed out headaches. And one of the things I noticed also is I had a person that I was doing a virtual meeting on. She said her eye kept twitching. And she said this eye has been twitching for like almost a week. The story behind it is she became a supervisor over some of her, some kind of she was a supervisor, and she was stressed out. Her employees were stressing her out, and she just didn't like the job. And so her eye just hadn't stopped twitching since she took this job. So just physical things that can occur. And if it's not just physical, then maybe you can't sleep, can't eat. So loss of appetite, loss of sleep. Kind of sometimes you can enter into depression. You don't want to be around people and start isolating yourself. So those are some of the things that I've noticed for people that have chronic stress, and they may not just think that I just didn't have a good night's sleep. But if it's a pattern, it's a lot more than just I didn't have a good night's sleep.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you mentioned that because I remember in a previous teaching assignment, one of the women that was on at the same place I was kept mentioning that she was dealing with ulcers because she was, under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. Her students needed to perform at a certain level on state assessments, and she taught a subject that had a lot riding on it and a lot was on her shoulder. So I get it. And it's easy to think, well, this is something else, but really there's that mind body connection or that gut brain connection that we have to be aware of. So I'm so glad that you made those connections for us and helped us to see how it is all interrelated. It's not an isolated thing. And so when we're experiencing those signs, we need to do something about it. So
Absolutely.
how yeah, yeah, right. So, how can busy professionals effectively incorporate stress management techniques into their hectic schedules? A lot of people, we all want more money and we all want more time,
Right,
right? And
right.
sometimes we are still looking for both, and we're in a constant need of those things. So how can people who are always on the go, who have a lot of responsibilities, make the time or find the time to incorporate stress management into their routine?
That's a good question. And I'm glad you said something about we're always busy or time. As I've heard a statement, we don't manage time, we manage ourselves. So I have people say, well, I'm going to manage my
Ooh.
time. No, we got to manage ourselves because the time just keeps going. So that was one thing I had learned. But one of the things and if you're really busy, the first thing you probably should do is look at your morning routine. Because I noticed for me, and I know from other people that I talk to, it's like, what's the first thing that you do when you get up in the morning? Like, because that's going to set the precedence of what you do. So whether that's exercise, whether that's meditation, music, or anything that you're doing on that end, you'd have to build that into your routine. So if you are trying to create stress management, start off in your day. So if you want to start off with meditation, if you want to start off with music, if you want to start off with jogging, and like for me, I have one of these walking pads in my office because I can't always get out, and it's like it was raining and snowing, and I just get on that walking pad, and it has a desk. So like no excuse, like they making all kind of things where you can just like, walk while you talk and while you type. And so different things I think, but morning is probably really important because you've already slept. And so the first thing, your mind is a little more clear. So if you establish it in a routine, you don't think busy when you first wake up unless you didn't go to sleep, but you think like you get fresh start. So try to find something in the morning versus in the afternoon when you've overworked yourself.
I like that idea of starting your day off with a routine, because I know that for a lot of our listeners or viewers, maybe their routine is, okay, my phone is my alarm. I turn off the alarm. Now I grab the phone and I'm scrolling, you know,
Yeah,
and that just may be that may be the routine, but that could be impacting how they move about the rest of the day, because you set the tone early in the morning, right? So
absolutely.
for me with that happened in particular, I had to keep my phone out of the room. Anybody that knows me in real life knows you can't call me after 9 o'clock because my phone goes on do not disturb automatically. If we haven't talked before 9, baby, we don't need to talk.
That's right. You're protecting your peace and your rest.
Exactly. And if you need me, it's going to have to wait until 8 o'clock the next morning or later. Don't
Absolutely.
worry about what time I'm up, because I'm not going to reply when I get up. It don't matter. My phone is in another room and it's on do not disturb, if not turned completely off.
Right.
And I do have an alarm clock on a different device, but on that device, I don't have apps that I can just go to immediately. I have apps that will help me with my meditation, Bible reading, so that I can set the day, set the tone for the day, and go into a different routine. And then while I'm doing my hygiene, saying affirmations, visualizing what tasks need to be complete, what can I reasonably get to. I try to make time for journaling, like you mentioned, taking that time to think about other things. I try to make time for journaling, but I'm not really consistent. Sometimes I will leave myself some voice notes or voice memos to just get it out of my head, get it off my chest, and then I can go back to what I was doing. And that walking pad, oh, I got one of those too. I converted I have an L-shaped desk here in my home office, and I got a little converter stand so that after I've been sitting for too long, I can now stand. I can get on the walking pad if I need to. I try to make it a habit to get on the walking pad during at least one meeting per week. That way, I'm not always sitting. I can get up and get that movement, because the weather right now isn't really, you know, inviting. And I love to be
Right.
outdoors, especially for that vitamin D from the sun. But
Mhm.
right now, at this time of this recording, we're in the winter months, and so we got to do what we got to do. So I appreciate how you mentioned that there are things that we can do to incorporate some stress management, starting with how we start out our day, how we have a routine, to get ourselves going. So thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely.
So, as you work with clients in your practice, if someone um, was considering therapy, because I know a lot of times, even though there's been much conversation about mental health and therapy, especially in communities of color, in Black and Brown communities, it's becoming more of a topic. So, could you explain for us how therapy can be a tool for someone who is constantly under stress, but maybe there's some hesitancy, they're a little bit skeptical about seeking professional help?
Yeah, and that's a good point you make that it's becoming more accepted, but people still see therapy as like they internalize something's wrong with them. And I always say, from being a trauma professional, I tell clients, a potential client, it's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. So something probably happened to each one of us, and just living life, right? Just living life, something has happened, whether was the cause of it or somebody else caused it to you. And that's where therapy is important, because I say therapy is insight. So when people think of therapy, they think of sitting on somebody's couch or whatever and somebody telling them what to do. Well, that's not a good therapist, because a good therapist doesn't give advice. The therapist makes it about the client and about you. And the whole ideal is they're looking at how you can gain insight from your own life. It's not about this bag of tools that they're going to tell you what to do, because they're not living your life. I don't live my client's life, but I find that I tap into their strengths, because they come to me with a challenge, and I talk to them, we talk about the problem in a sense, but we look at the strengths that you have. And again, we look at trauma, like maybe something happened to you, because people in your life may have framed it as something's wrong with you. So we get that straight already. There ain't nothing wrong with you. What's happened to you over your life. Some of it might be childhood stuff, maybe adulthood stuff, but whatever it is, we're going to get the insight. So if you okay with being with you, therapy is good, because that's mostly what it is, about you. And I know some people can't sit in a space with themselves, but that's what the therapist is supposed to do, is help you go on a journey of who you are. And then you tap into yourself and find the resolution, not the therapist.
That is powerful. That is powerful. And I appreciate the way that you broke that down. We go to the therapist to get help to discover ourselves. I've heard an expression that says, "Don't go into your mind alone. It's a dangerous place."
That's good.
And by having a therapist, you have somebody who's trained to help you navigate whatever's in there. And
Right.
there's also a book, to your point. I can't think of the other person who co-authored it with her, but Oprah Winfrey, and this other author, when I find it, I'm gonna also link it in the show notes. But it's called "What Happened to You?" To your point, what happened to you? Because we have previous experiences, things that we have to live with because of decisions we made or decisions somebody made on our behalf, and we are impacted by that. And so many times people are living with trauma that they don't know how to sit with. It's difficult. It's not easy to process, especially when it happened to us in our earlier life, and that child hasn't managed it. So we may be a full grown adult, but when we think about that experience, we are emotionally and mentally back at that age in which we experienced that incident.
Yeah, and I've heard a statement where I've read something that you're healing the inner child.
Yes.
So, like you stated, you might be a grown adult, but the inner child may not be healed. And that's where we're coming to therapy, to get somebody to help guide you through that journey. Like you said, don't go into your mind alone. So that's
Right.
good.
And to your point also about how therapy is to help the individual that's coming, I know of some people who have thought about therapy as a mechanism to fix everybody else.
Right, right. Like it's like going to church and you're hearing the message for somebody else instead of hearing it for yourself.
Right, right, right. It's
It's like,
like,
nope, that's
no,
it's for you.
That's not quite how that works. We don't go to fix everybody else. We go to fix ourselves so that we can deal with everybody else or work on ourselves, right? Because we're not a problem to be fixed or a puzzle to be solved, but we are all a work in progress. So it takes, um, first of all, I think recognizing that step. You know what? I need some help so I can deal with this. Let me go to
Yes.
somebody that can help me with that.
And I like that you said we're a work in progress because we're evolving and we're not who we were yesterday and we won't be the same tomorrow. And that's going on that journey and we're maturing and finding out who we are. Yep, that's good.
Now, a moment ago, you mentioned about sleep. When a person is experiencing chronic stress or their stress levels may rise from time to time, it impacts their quality of sleep, how much sleep they get or don't get, how fast it may take for them to fall asleep, whether they wake up frequently or not. So, what role does sleep play in managing stress? And what strategies can you recommend for improving sleep quality when under stress?
Yeah, so I think yeah, sleep is really the part. If I know there's studies on how deep we go into our sleep when we close our eyes, but it may be the first time that people are actually unhooking, and that's what I think of sleeping is unhooking from what the world, from what you're doing all day, from your daily responsibilities, and if you've been going on and on and on all day long, you can't, your body can't handle you being able to just keep that same pace. You have to have rest and sleep, as you said, at 9 o'clock, you're done. And everybody has to have some level where they are shutting down and shutting off. And it really doesn't matter if you close your eyes. If your mind is still going, your body still can tell that you're not asleep. So that's where the sleep problems come: worry, fear, anxiety. People go to sleep with stuff. So some of the things I recommend is being very careful what you listen to before you go to sleep. Like sometimes, as you say, people are on these phones, people are watching TV. Some people sleep with the TV on. I know some people that said they cannot sleep without the TV on. And I said, no,
Yeah.
no, I can't sleep with it on. I cut that off. I can't have that in my psyche or nothing. But I mean, that's another way, like you said, they can't sit with themselves. So the TV babysits them. But unfortunately, that's going to be why they can't sleep peacefully. Yeah. So I'm recommending, and some people do need medication. Some people use something like melatonin or maybe other types of medication. I mean, if you have to use that, use whatever you can to support and aid you. But you can try to get sleep medications to help you and assist you. But the main thing is try to calm your racing mind down and get away from stuff like you said, like TVs, phones, social media. If you can, some people wear the little things on their eyes to kind of shut down. So, because sometimes and cutting the lights out helps. Some people they not scared of the dark, but so get a very low light. You don't want all that brightness in your eyes. So just different things. But whatever a person does, they like you said, they got to shut off and be able to kind of unwind and unhook.
Yeah, I agree, especially when we have so much access to so much all the time. Like, a lot of streaming services, a lot of news and updates right at our fingertips. So it goes into setting those boundaries with ourselves about, when we shut those things off so that we can prepare to shut off as well. I remember, I wasn't alive at this time, but I've been told that there was a time when the television would turn off,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
programming would end at a certain time of night. But now, I mean, even if that were the case, we have so much available to where we can access entertainment on demand. So
yeah.
by setting boundaries with ourselves with how long we allow ourselves to stay up and be on our phones or watch television or look at a screen, finding things that can help replace, that need. So having a routine, we may do a meditation, like one that we'll do later on in this segment. We may find an audio book that is calming to help us focus on something else. Now, there's different things out there. I know some people say, well, I like to listen to true crime, it helps calm me down. I'm like, how?
Right, right. I don't see how either. Yeah,
How? But listening to something like a soundscape or a sleepscape, there's different apps like Calm and Headspace that provide, those things. And even like white noise, pink noise, brown noise, so many different things, like I said, from the apps, even on YouTube, where we can have that noise, that sound in the background, but it's not voices that are
Voices.
distracting or things like that. Soothing voices, soothing sounds to help us sleep. And like you said, we have to learn to sit with ourselves. I know when I first started trying to do a soundscape to help me relax, because I was one of those people. I have a comfort show, and I would turn on my comfort show, and for over a decade, it was not good sleep hygiene, but I did it anyway. I would listen to this comfort show, and I set my television at a certain time where it would time out at night. And then I realized, why do I need this comfort show? Why am I listening to these same reruns over and over again? And it's because I needed to sit with myself, and acknowledge those thoughts that I had, write them down
Right.
so that I could address them in therapy or have a conversation with somebody else that I needed to have. But I had to learn that. And when we learn to sit with ourselves and take the time out to just be us,
Yeah.
sometimes we have to face that person in the mirror or face that person in our mind and realize, you know what, I got to work on that. Let me figure this thing out, because sleep has an impact on so many parts of our health. If we don't have enough sleep, we can overeat.
Yeah.
It could impact staying well or getting sick because it's beneficial for our immune system. There's so many restorative processes that take place when we sleep that if our sleep is insufficient or low quality, we're doing our body a disservice from head to toe, inside and out. Um,
Absolutely.
Sleep can even impact weight loss and weight gain. It's so much that we benefit from when we get good quality adequate sleep. So if our sleep is
Absolutely.
disrupting that process, if our sleep is being disrupted, if our lack of sleep or poor sleep or bad sleep hygiene is a result of the stress, then we have to be aware of it and advocate for ourselves and take care of it.
Yeah. And, like you said, maybe you start off where you're not doing it as healthy, but you just do a little bit every day. Like it doesn't have to be a
Yeah,
sprint. It can be a slow
right.
jog or marathon, but at least you're moving forward towards that. So I like that. Yep.
Yeah, just making one simple change. And so,
Hmm.
and you mentioned too about the eye mask, because I didn't realize about, like, with daylight. Daylight, if it's coming through, if a person has the opportunity to sleep, until the sun does come up, kudos to them. I've never been in a career where I could, sleep until the sun rose. I had to be up before the sunrise.
Right.
But I know that if I'm up and other people in my house, or if I'm asleep rather, and other people in my house are awake, then by me having the eye mask on, I'm not distracted if a light comes on. Also, the eye mask I use has Bluetooth connectivity, so I can listen to the white noise or the sleepscape or soundscape or what have you to fall asleep, and it's not a distraction for my husband. I was going to say the other person in the
All
room,
right.
other people in my house, my husband, and it's just something about being in my own zone, like being my own cocoon, and I'm
Hmm.
I'm doing that for me
Right.
and my
Absolutely.
well-being.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's
So
right.
we know that as long as we're alive, we're going to experience stress. There's normal day-to-day stress, normal work stress, and then there's stress that's at a higher level that requires a more serious intervention. So how can individuals who are busy, who have a lot going on, how can we differentiate the difference between normal everyday stress and stress that is more serious and we need to get intervention?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I was thinking like if I could parallel and compare that to like a machine, like our days sometimes are like, it's a routine to it. Like just like a machine, if you see a machine running and it has processes to it and, different parts to it. And if you think about it, a well-oiled machine is going to have different things to it. But when the machine starts skipping and breaking down, then they looking for a tech to be like, hey, like whether it's assembly line or whatever it is, we got to fix this. So it's similar to us. We're going to have day-to-day routine. There's going to be a level of noise. I think you said it earlier. We're going to have stress in every part of it. If you're just living, if you breathing and living, you're going to have stress. And not all stress is bad. Sometimes it's just a sign that you're alive and you're doing something, because you ain't doing nothing if you sleeping in a grave. So there ain't no stress with that. So I mean, you be careful what you ask for, because you don't want no stress. It might be part that you ain't alive. But the whole ideal of it is that it is responding to life. We are supposed to have some level of engaging with life, engaging with people we love, engaging with our businesses or our jobs or our customers or whoever. And that's going to bring a level of stress, which also brings resolution. So you start to solve challenges and all that. But when it becomes that it's an overload, like that machine, and it's skipping and it's breaking down, and it's like it just can't handle the capacity. So we all have a level of capacity that we can hold, and sometimes we think, I got it, I'm all right. No, no, no. And people will tell you you're not all right. Is something okay with you? You don't seem like yourself. And our best detectors ourselves, as we mentioned earlier. Maybe you're going to have some body symptoms, maybe headaches, or gastrointestinal stuff, or just in general, it's just you're a little bit outside of that normal running machine, and it's starting to break down, and you just not really feeling like you can make it through the day. You're sleeping too much, you're not sleeping enough, you're eating too much, you're not eating enough. And so it just becomes that almost like a reset, just like when you take your phone and sometimes you have to reset your phone, or they had them updates to it. And it's like what we got to do sometimes. So that's when you can tell it's a little bit much, when you have to see that you're not in your normal functioning, and you know what your baseline is. Everybody knows their baseline, usually what they normally function at. And when you start to function below that, that's a sign to kind of get some help and to make some adjustments.
Like the way you put that well-oiled machine. I think about a car. So if the check engine light comes on, it's like, okay, let me go to the mechanic, let me go to the dealership service center, let me go figure this out. And then there's on the other side of the coin, there's people who are like, oh, well, I know my car.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I'll
And,
just
and
chance it.
it's only so far you can get with knowing your car before that
Hmm.
car is like, okay, I gave you indications a while back and you didn't listen. And now
Right,
this is where we are. And what could
right.
have been fixed sooner and maybe a little bit more easily is now going to take a little longer, going to involve more repair to get back
Hmm.
online, so to speak. So our bodies are the same way, our brains are the same way, our minds are the same way. We can't ignore that check engine light. And if we do choose to not respond when it comes on and we wait a little bit longer, we have to keep in mind, okay, it's going to take a little longer to fix too, so to speak. So I'm
Absolutely.
with you. I would check it as soon as possible, or be
That's
be
right.
aware of it. Yes, indeed.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
So, what are your thoughts, Sheena, on mindfulness and meditation in the workplace?
Yeah, so I know that some people do things like yoga and different other mindfulness and meditation, but it's kind of whatever works for a person. Some people, however they quiet themselves, some people use art, some people use music, some people use, like I said, yoga. Some people take the time to shut their door and just have just quiet time, or journaling. And then there's auto journaling. So some people say, well, I don't like to write. Well, you can speak and get your phone and do some auto journaling, those affirmations. I mean, I'm really big on, speaking over yourself the right things, because sometimes meditation, like the whole word of meditation, when people, it's like they can be muttering something, but words are really powerful. So if you're not muttering some words that are going to get you some energy and to get you, towards your goals, and to calm that peace, give some peace in your life, just listening to something that muttering over and over is not going to necessarily help you unless it produces peace for you. So, but people like yoga. Some people like it, some people don't. But that's an option. And then some people have, like I teach distress tolerance. I've done guided imagery with people. So,
Hmm.
where you relax your muscles and then you tense them. And so things like that. I like massages if people can go get them. I'm a fan of that. Whether it's a deep tissue or I do the hot stone ones. I do all that just to
Hmm.
try to
Yes.
get some calmness to it. But as you stated, more so in the workplace, it does have to be sometimes be supported, because some people are in toxic workplaces. They don't even get a break. I think I was talking to somebody. They said they got to schedule a bathroom break. They send clients. I said, you got to schedule a bath. I said, no, you need to restructure your job if you got to schedule a bathroom break, because that's just too much. And this is their personal business. But I said, well, that's not worth all of that if your health is going to compromise. I mean, find a way to kind of reduce some of your clients or something. That's just overload. So depending on the workplace, some workplaces aren't for it, are very good places, and others you can make sure that you create it yourself. But whatever it is, like you said, I think you have to find out what works for you. Just because it worked for somebody, your other coworker or your other business partner, don't mean it'll work for you. And then you sitting there like,
Right.
why isn't it not effective? Because it's not you for you. So yeah,
That's it. And we have to be willing to try different things to see what's going to work for us. I love massages. My sister is like, I don't want that. Nope.
she don't want nobody touching her.
For whatever reason. I'm like, give me the hot stones. It could be a water massage. I do not mind it. Give it to me.
Right,
I want it.
right.
But we have to try to know what we don't and do like, and what will and won't work for us. Because it's so many things available, we don't have to choose something just because somebody else suggested it. So some things were
Absolutely.
mentioned here, and if you're in the audience and you're like, oh well, I never had a massage. I don't know if I would like it or not. Try it. You may stretch. And meditation itself doesn't have to be repeating a phrase or repeating a mantra. It could be focusing on something besides the issue that is causing the anxiety or the stress. One thing I try to do is what I call a gratitude meditation. And I may say, okay, I'm going to take the color green, for example. Now I'm going to list 6 things that are green that I am grateful for. And what that does is it allows my mind to think, well, man, what are some things that I know that are green? Okay, now am I just grateful for it, or is it just a thought? And like money, I am appreciative of money, because it allows me to buy the things that I need and some of the things that I want. So it's like, yeah, I have gratitude for that because it keeps me honest, right?
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
like, okay, that. And I might think about um, this shirt. My husband has an olive green shirt. I love to see him in it. It complements his skin. So that's on the list. And then I just go down the list like, okay, what else? Oh, I have a green book and it's by Tiffany Alicia. Okay, and I love her. She also has green bracelets. And so now that's on the list. And what I'm doing is I am strategically creating a list of 6 things that include the color green or that are green, and now I'm writing that on my gratitude list. And so
Yeah.
the next time I want to practice gratitude, I'm like, okay, this time I'm going to think about things that are fuzzy and warm. And so
Mm-hmm.
now my brain has something else to think about, and I'm continuing to grow that gratitude list. I know sometimes people think about, you know what, I got to be grateful. So I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my friends. Yeah, that's fine. That can be on the list. But
Mm-hmm.
if you tell yourself make a gratitude list every day and you always start off with those same things, you're boxing yourself in. So it's okay to write things that aren't family, friends, and the things that you feel like you must have on your
Mm-hmm.
gratitude list. So that's just a thought on that. Meditation could be focusing on things that you are grateful for and then being strategic about what's on that list. And by I like to make the number 6 because it makes my mind stretch. It makes me look around. It makes me think back. And again, my mind is now off of the stressor. I'm pulling away from it mentally, even though it may still be present. But I'm in a better frame of mind to now go back and deal with it because I have thought about things that are not the stressor and that I can appreciate and have gratitude for.
Absolutely. And there is a science in gratitude. I mean, it is, you really can't complain and be grateful at the same time. You have to stop one to start the other. So
Yep.
what you're saying is extremely important. Like if I want to distract myself from all of those pressures that stress, it's a science, just like you said, to think about what's grateful and what's not on that list. And that way, if you have the gratitude going more than the stress and the worry and the fear and the complaining, it becomes where it overrides it. And as you state, now you have a pattern of being grateful. And I'm sure the stress level will go down because now you're focusing, as you state, on things that are on that list or should be on that list.
Right, right. Oh, so in your practice, as you work with clients, can you share a case study or maybe an example where a specific strategy that you were able to help the client implement significantly help them to manage their stress?
Sure. So I have a client that struggles with trauma, anxiety, and that doesn't have a lot of social supports. And I know to those people who don't have social supports, they feel alone, and that can bring stress in itself. And so what we worked on is what we call distress tolerance, and it's ability to kind of look at first you're going to have to. I got her to rate her stressors because sometimes people don't rate their stressors. In other words, you put everything on there. I mean, kids, job. In her case, she had a lot of stuff on there, and even people you love can be stressed to you. And it's a sign that you just have to like know where to set your boundaries. Like sometimes people just don't have boundaries. They don't know how to say no. And so that's what one of the things we worked on her was like being able to first rate her stressors and being honest, like being honest with yourself. As remember I said, therapy is not about the therapist. Are you gonna be honest with yourself? Because I don't know who's a stress in your life. I need you to tell me who that is, and then let's look at what we can do about it. And so she developed some boundaries. And I think one of the things that she did was she actually had to move away from some stressors, get rid of some toxic people in her life. And when you start, if you love people and they are, in your life and they're supposed to be in your life, that's one thing. But if you got people in your life and sometimes you got to evacuate. Sometimes I go through my phone and just get rid of people I haven't talked to in a while because they weren't people that were good for me. Ain't no need in keeping the numbers. If you ain't talked to them in a while, you ain't contacted them, and
Yeah,
they ain't contacting you. The people in your life for a season and a reason, and that's it. And then
yeah.
some are there for longer.
Season. Yeah, season, reason, and lifetime is what I've heard. And like you said, it's no
Yes,
love loss or nothing personal. But if we're not keeping in touch, maybe that season or reason has passed. The purpose is fulfilled, and we
absolutely.
can both go on. We're at peace, and it's all good. But then there are some times when we have to remove ourselves from situations or remove situations from us. And one thing I've been able to realize is that oftentimes we can't make that move in that moment. It may be
Right.
somebody who we have to interact with and there's nothing we can do about it
Absolutely.
except focus on what we can control. And what we
Yes.
can control are our emotions. We can control our thoughts, our behaviors, how we respond. And by being aware of it and learning emotional regulation and emotional management can help us to deal with that. Because, okay, I got to deal with this person for whatever reason or forever or how long. It may not be an indeterminable amount of time, but it's like, okay, if I have to do this, let me focus on what I can control. If I have to share
Absolutely.
space with this person, if I have to stay in this job because XYZ reasons, right? And we may realize, yeah, there may be some things happening that are toxic, but if we learn the emotional regulation, if we learn the emotional freedom, we can give ourselves more empathy, give empathy to the situation and even to those other people that may be involved and focus on, okay, this is a stressful thing, this is a stressful situation or what have you, but this is what I can do about it. I can
Absolutely.
control me.
That's right, Martita. Because you can't always, like you said, you can't quit a job. Your bills might be due, and you got to wait till another job come. You can't leave a relationship.
Exactly.
Or you might have kids and stuff that you have to, so you can't leave sometimes relationships that maybe aren't as good for you. And so, as you stated, it's like being able to manage self. Because I liked there was a poem, of attitude that said, or a quote, 10% in life is what happens to you, and 90% is how we respond. So it just like, wow. So maybe I can't control that toxic person, that toxic job, but I can control my response. Like you said, I can regulate my response. So 10%, so it's making the 10% not as bad. It's making me or my 90% response more of the responsibility. And then I heard somebody said, learn how to respond, not react. And particularly, I say for my women out here, because women sometimes, we can get emotional, we react. and knee-jerk reaction too. And we ain't thought nothing. We ain't thought about what we saying. We apologize because we done went off on somebody. And they like, I didn't even mean it that way. And so we're learning how to respond and not react because it's more of a thinking. And that, like you said, that's not controlling anybody. That's controlling ourselves.
Right. And so by it requires, like I said before, that emotional regulation. Like, you know what, I'm not gonna say the first thing that comes to my mind. Let me actually listen and just let it be. And then give a response and not listening with the intent. "Well, I'm just ready to respond. I'm ready to have my time." No, let it be. Just let it be. They may be saying some things that are untrue, that are hurtful, that are wrong, that are whatever. But you can't control what comes out of their mouth. You can't control what comes out of yours. So choosing how
Yeah.
we respond in that situation. And another thing is we can't put out a fire by adding fire. So if our
Mm-hmm.
emotions are out of control or we don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to respond in that moment in a way that is befitting of us in the situation, then we may need to, you know what, let me take a break. Let's pause this conversation. Let's reconvene at a different time. Let's have a moment.
Absolutely.
And somebody might be thinking, well, that's not how I handle things. Okay, we're talking about stress. You could be adding to your own stress and anxiety because of how you're choosing to handle things. Think
Absolutely. And
about
I've
it.
heard if you
Think about it.
insanity's right, insanity's doing the same thing over expecting a different results. Like you said, if you reacting all the time and you getting this response, you like all that drama and chaos, then keep doing that. But if you want to have a outcome, then we have to change how we do it. And even for me, I had to grow in a relationship with my daughter is and that lives with me, and we've had struggles, and it was because she knew how to push every button. She knew every button to push, and I knew that when she pushed him, I would respond the same way. And I had to say, you know what? After the however many days, months, years sometimes, when am I going to stop responding to those triggers, to things she's pushing? And when I decided to respond to him, then our relationship got better. I'm sitting there waiting for her to change, but it was really me. I needed to stop letting her push my button. And she knew how to push him too, because it's like she knew. And I was like, well, I keep reacting. That's what happened. But now we're in a better space because I had to learn how to do things, not react. And now my stress level's gone down. So, and it wasn't about her changing, it was me. And then she started changing because she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. She said, Mom, I'm so sorry that I acted like that. You're so good to me and I act like that to you. And I said, oh, well, that wouldn't have happened if I had kept on fight, like you said, putting out fire with fire. That won't go work.
Right, right. And so a lot of times we have to realize, you know what, maybe they might be a problem, but maybe I'm a
Yeah,
problem too. And it
right.
takes humility. It takes humility to
Yeah,
realize, when we have played a part in something. It's okay. We're all
absolutely.
imperfect people. We have all done
Right,
something to somebody, even
right,
unintentionally. But
right.
even unintentional hurt still hurts,
It
right?
does.
And when we realize, you know what, that was messed up. That was my mistake. I understand. Now I can fix it. But it takes, again, it takes that emotional maturity, that emotional regulation, emotional freedom to realize, you know what, this ain't it. And if we are constantly finding ourselves in a situation where we are always the victim, if we are constantly finding ourselves in a situation where it's everybody else's fault, something that's a sign that if
Absolutely.
the only thing that has not changed is if the people if the environment was different and it's different folks there, but I'm still having the same issue, it's time to look on
Yep.
the inside.
Yeah, we the common denominator. Everybody else is, yeah, it's us that's the common denominator in all those situations. So you're right. We got to look at ourselves, and that's
We gotta look
hard,
at
like you
ourselves.
said.
It really
It's very
is. It
hard to do
really
that.
is.
Humility does that.
Yeah. So before we get ready to conclude our episode, what we're going to do is we're going to take our listeners through a guided meditation using emotional freedom technique or tapping. And if anyone is feeling stressed or overwhelmed, maybe some of the things that we've been talking about in this particular episode reminded you of other situations. If those things came up for you, if those things, another word triggered gets thrown around a lot. If those things triggered a thought for you, or triggered you, that's something that you get to address and heal and work out with your mental health professional. Let this conversation, let this podcast, either in entirety or this particular episode, be the springboard, if you will, to you deciding, okay, let me work on me for me so I can be a better me, because it's not up to us to change other people. It's up to us to change and work on and improve ourselves. I talk to a lot of professionals, and everybody's talking about that next level, leveling up, getting from where they are to the next thing. But we can't go to a new role or a new place by staying the same.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that.
Yeah. So what we're going to do before we close is we are going to have a meditation, and it could help provide relief for when we are feeling stressed. So if anyone is wanting to replay this particular segment of the episode, they can. Anytime that they're stressed, they can go back and repeat it. They can go through it, go back through it again. But again, let this be a tool you use in your emotional healing as you work alongside your professional. Okay. So if you've never done an emotional freedom tapping technique meditation before, I do want to point out just a couple of things to be aware of and to be familiar with, so that when we start, you are aware of what's happening, you know what we're doing. And if you are watching this on YouTube or another visual platform, then you're going to see me go through these movements. And if you're listening to this through another service where it's audio only, I will be giving descriptions of what we're doing so that you aren't, thinking, wait, what do I do when? Okay, so this is what we do. We always start off by tapping on what we call the karate chop point. Now, that's going to be the space below the pinky finger and above the wrist, like if you were to give a karate chop. So that's the part we're going to tap on first, and we're going to address the issue or the problem. We're going to say a statement 3 times, and then we'll move on to the rest of the points. The next point that we'll move to will be what we call the eyebrow point, and this is the start of the eyebrow. And so we'll tap there by taking 2 fingers, the index finger and the middle finger, tapping on that point. And then we will move to the side of the eye, so that outer corner of the eye on the bone, and we will tap those 2 fingers there. Next, we will tap underneath the eye. So this is underneath the eye, right on the bone where that cheekbone is forming. You will tap there. And then next, I will ask you to move to underneath your nose. So you will tap underneath your nose right above your top lip with those same 2 fingers. And then next, you're moving to the chin point. So this is the indentation in your chin underneath your bottom lip. You will tap there. And then next, we will tap on what we call the collarbone point. So it's actually like a little bit below the actual collarbone itself, maybe about an inch or two. And you can use your whole hand. You can use all 4 fingers. You can use your entire palm. You can use just 2 fingers, whatever's comfortable for you at this point. Okay. And you'll tap there. Next, we will move to underneath the arm. So this is about 4 inches underneath your armpit, and you can tap there by using the opposite hand from the other arm, or by using your same hand, just kind of like if you wanted to reach and scratch under your arm with the same hand, you could do that either way. Okay, whatever's comfortable for you. Next, we will tap at the top of your head. So this is the crown point. All right, I like to go in the center of my head as though I were parting my hair down the middle. And you can use both hands, you can just use one, but I'm taking either those first 2 fingers or all 4 fingers to tap at that point. And so we will go through several rounds, and those are the points that we're going to tap on. So I wanted you to be familiar with those. And then we're going to start off, like I said, by acknowledging the stress, acknowledging the issue. We're going to rate it. We'll go through the meditation, and then we'll rate it again at the end. So first, I want you to take a nice deep breath in through your nose and exhale it slowly through your mouth. All right, so I want you to rate your current stress level at this moment from a 0 to a 10, 10 being the highest intensity, 0 being none whatsoever. And I want you to write this down so that you can refer to it at the end. Okay, so now we're going to start tapping. You can repeat the phrases out loud or you can repeat them in your mind. So let's begin. First, we'll acknowledge the stress, tapping on the side of your hand or karate chop point. Even though I feel overwhelmed and stressed, I deeply love and accept and honor myself. Still on the side of the hand, even though I feel overwhelmed and stressed, I deeply love, accept, and honor myself. One more time on the side of the hand. Even though I feel overwhelmed and stressed, I deeply love, accept, and honor myself. Now we're going to move through the points, repeating after me out loud or in your mind. Eyebrow. This heavy stress in my body. Side of the eye. I have so much to do and it feels like too much. Under the eye. I don't know how to slow down. Under the nose. This stress is weighing on me. Chin. I feel like I can't take a break. Collarbone. This tension in my body and mind. Under the arm, I recognize how overwhelmed I feel. Top of the head, I'm carrying so much stress. Now we're going to tap through the points, allowing the stress to move out. Going to the eyebrow. What if I could let it go, even just a little? Side of the eye. I don't have to hold all this stress. Under the eye. I give myself permission to release it. Under the nose. I can breathe and find peace. Chin. I choose to soften this tension now. Collarbone. I allow my body to relax even a little. Under the arm, letting go of what I don't need to carry. Top of the head, I am safe to release this stress. Take a deep breath in and exhale slowly. Let's go back to the eyebrow point. This time we are welcoming peace. Eyebrow. I am open to feeling calmer now. Side of the eye. I invite ease and clarity into my day. Under the eye. I deserve to feel peaceful. Under the nose, I give myself permission to slow down. Chin. It's okay to take care of myself. Collarbone. I allow balance into my life. Under the arm, I am choosing calm instead of chaos. Top of the head, I welcome peace and presence now. Eyebrow point, I am stronger than my stress. Side of the eye, I trust myself to handle what comes. Under the eye, I am resilient and capable. Under the nose, I have everything I need within me. Chin, I choose to respond with ease. Collarbone, I can find moments of peace even in busy days. Under the arm, I am grounded, present, and in control. Top of the head, I am calm, strong, and at ease. We're now going to tap through the points one last time and seal in our relaxation, moving to the eyebrow point. I am grateful for this moment of calm. Side of the eye, I honor my needs and well-being. Under the eye, I deserve to feel good. Under the nose, I am proud of myself for taking this time. Chin, peace is always available to me. Collarbone, I choose to move forward with ease. Under the arm, I am safe, supported, and balanced. Top of the head, I carry this calm energy with me. And whenever you're ready, you may gently stop tapping. Take a final deep breath in and exhale completely. Now you want to re-rate your stress level from 0 to 10, 10 being it's at the highest intensity possible. I want you to notice any shifts in your body, your emotions, or your mindset. And acknowledge the time that you took for yourself today. And know that you can return to this practice or this particular meditation at any time. So Sheena, what about you? What do you notice after completing this meditation?
Yeah, I think it was like really calming, and I liked how you took us through the repetition of it, and I think that helped to calm the stress. So I definitely went from like a 6 to like maybe a 2. So that was very
Awesome.
helpful for me.
I'm glad it helped. And so that's what I love about emotional freedom technique or tapping is that it allows us to center ourselves, emotionally regulate, recognize what is something that could be causing the stress or acknowledging the stress itself, but then releasing it so that we don't have to feel it. We don't have to carry it. And when someone is preparing for sleep, if they did a meditation like this to prepare for sleep so they can have better sleep, to prepare for the day so they can have a different mindset about their day, making tapping a part of their routine. And as they experience moments throughout the day, they can do a tapping meditation. The one we did today is a little bit longer, but you can even do one that's like 15 seconds, just tapping through the points on your body, even if you don't say anything. So by knowing the points and tapping on all of them, or just tapping on one or a few, as we are trying to process different things and have emotional management, is impactful. Okay. So that's one thing I want our listeners to walk away with in their toolkit. We have discussed so many different things that we can have in our mental health toolkit. And I want to thank you, Sheena, our guest for today, a licensed clinical social worker, certified clinical trauma professional. You can find her on social media with Instagram. She is the skills coach, and I'm going to put the link in the description. Sheena, do you have any parting words you'd like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I want to thank you, Martita, for having me, and I want to implore you to just use the tapping and all of the techniques we talked about today. Martita mentioned some things, and I mentioned some things, and just go out there and just decrease that stress just by believing in who you are and that you deserve to be stress free. And so practice it, and take it a little bit at a time. Don't worry about making it, like I said, perfection, but just progression.
Yeah. It's all about progress over perfection, and practice makes improvement when we do it regularly. All right. So
Absolutely.
until the next episode drops, keep tapping with Tita. Y'all take care. If you liked this episode, subscribe or follow to keep tapping with Tita. Share it with your friends too, so they can also heal and level up. Be sure to leave a comment or a review, because we love hearing from you.